Thank you, Jack, so much for being with us here today for your presentation of Fiddler on the Roof. We are very excited for you to be here with us, and I'm going to hand the floor right over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. Okay, so today the program I put together for you is called Fiddler on the Roof, From Stage to Screen. So we'll be seeing excerpts from the stage production and also from the film interviews from the people who put it together, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Now, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have seen Fiddler on the Roof, either on the stage or most likely the film as well. The original Broadway production opened on September 22nd, 1964, and ran for 3,242 performances, which at that time was a record. Fiddler on the Roof won 8 Tony Awards, including one for its star Zero Mostel, and the original production also starred Beatrice Arthur. You know her from Maud. She played Yentl, the matchmaker. Also, Bette Midler was a newcomer at the time, and she played one of the daughters, Seidel. The show has been revived about every 10 years. So far, there's been 5 revivals. And also, in addition, a Yiddish version in 2018, which we'll see some clips from later on. Now, the actual Fiddler on the Roof is a symbolic character. He represents the spirit of the Jewish people, which is why he has no lines and the rest of the actors don't interact with him. So let's start with Fiddler on the Roof, From Stage to Screen. Well, I couldn't resist putting my own bar mitzvah picture on here. The show is based on short stories by Sholem Aleichem, he wrote in Yiddish, called Tevye's Daughters, which was about a dairyman in Russia in a shtetl in 1905. He had 5 daughters, but the show focuses mostly on the 3 oldest ones, as one by one they marry. The music was by Jerry Bach, the lyrics by Sheldon Harnick, and the book by Joseph Stein. Rodgers and Hammerstein had expressed an interest in making a musical of those stories, but decided it would only appeal to Jewish audiences. And of course, we know how wrong they were. Joseph Stein, who wrote the book, at first turned it down.
Wanted to do a musical about a bunch of old Jews in Russia who are going through a pogrom. I mean, what, are you out of your mind?
The producer was Harold Prince, who, of course, you know, produced many great Broadway shows, including West Side Story. And they wanted him to direct, but he declined.
They asked me to direct it, and I said, I'm the wrong guy. You've got to get Jerry Robbins. He can give it a universality with movement.
Jerome Robbins' grandfather came from a small village in Russia around the same time that Fiddler on the Roof takes place.
A figure with a long white beard who always sat me on his lap and who I loved a lot and who I knew loved me. And he sang many Jewish songs at night, and I sang with him. And there was comfort there. It was what I belonged to.
That was one of the reasons I wanted to do that show, because of that background that I have.
Sheldon Harnick, who wrote the lyrics, credits Jerome Robbins with finding the key to adapting the story to the stage.
The key to making Fiddler work was Jerome Robbins' idea. I can't tell you how many meetings we had where he said, "What is this story about?" And one of us said, "It's about the changing of a way of life, of a set of traditions." Robbins got very excited and he said, "Well, if it's about tradition, then we have to have an opening number which tells the audience what some of these traditions are.
The opening number tradition was common to every culture. So the show was as common to Japanese family life as it was to Jewish family life. And it went all over the world, and every single place it went, it became their family story, despite the idiosyncrasies of what was Jewish about it.
I thought it would be interesting, since it played all over the world, including Japan, to see Fiddler on the Roof in Japanese. In order to raise money for the show, Sheldon Harnick and Jerry Bach sang some of the songs themselves to a group of potential investors.
I would explain what the book was in brief, and Jerry Bach and I would then sing some of the score.
May the Lord protect and defend you. May the Lord preserve you from pain. Favor them, O Lord, with happiness and peace. Oh, hear our Sabbath prayer. Amen.
The idea for the title Fiddler on the Roof came from a painting by Marc Chagall.
One of his paintings was of a man playing the violin, and he's actually floating just a bit above a roof, but he looks like he's standing on it. And one of us suggested as a title, Fiddler on the Roof.
During the out-of-town tryouts, many songs were dropped. So we're going to hear Sheldon Harnick singing a song which was dropped called When Messiah Comes.
When Messiah comes, he will say to us, I apologize that I took so long, but I had a little trouble finding you. Over here a few and over there a few. You were hard to reunite, but everything is going to be all right.
When we get to Detroit, there's almost no laughter for When Messiah Comes. It just doesn't work. This is a moment of great poignance, near tragedy. The villagers are told they're going to have to leave the place where they've lived all their lives, sell their goods and be out in 3 days. How can the audience accept it? You know, it's embarrassing. It's awkward. So we cut it.
So when the show opened in New York, it was much better. The reviews were kind of mixed. I'll show you a review by Walter Kerr of the Herald Tribune. And at the very end, he says, the result is a very near miss, and I very much miss what might have been. But however, the day after it opened, there was a line around the block.
The lines were the longest lines I've ever seen in my life for tickets. You stand outside when you're producing a show. If there are lines, you go look at them. Well, on the Fiddler, it was spectacular.
Let's watch a scene from the show in which the three oldest daughters fantasize about what kind of match the matchmaker will provide.
Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch. Matchmaker, matchmaker, look through your book and make me a perfect match. Matchmaker, matchmaker, I'll bring the veil, you bring the groom, slender and pale. Bring me a ring, for I'm longing to be the envy of all I see. For Papa, make him a scholar. For Mama, make him rich as a king. For me, well, I wouldn't holler if he were as handsome as anything. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch. Night after night in the dark I'm alone, so find me a match of my own.
One of the most popular songs from the show is If I Were a Rich Man.
Catch me a catch. Night after night in the dark I'm alone, so find me a match of my own.
One of the most popular songs from the show is If I Were a Rich Man. And so I'm going to show you a very interesting version by someone you wouldn't think would be singing this song. And I'm talking about Sammy Davis Jr. After all, he was Jewish.
If I were a rich man, diddle 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 da da diddle diddle dum. All day long I'd biddy biddy bum. If I were a wealthy man, wouldn't have to work hard. Diddle 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 da da diddle diddle dum. If I were a bitty bitty rich diddle 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 man, I'd build a big tall house with rooms by the dozens right in the middle of the town. A fine tin roof with real wooden floors below. There would be one long staircase just going up and one even longer coming down. And maybe one more leading nowhere, just for show. Hey, if I were a rich man, all day long I'd biddy biddy bum. If I were a wealthy
Sammy Davis Jr. Now, in 2014, marked the 50th anniversary of the opening of Fiddler on the Roof, and they had special celebrations, and many stars were asked to come and perform songs from the show, and many of those performers had never been in Fiddler on the Roof. So here's an example of one of my favorite songs from the show called Do You Love Me, that Tevye sings to his wife. And in this version, it's played by Len Cariou, who was the original Sweeney Todd, and Tova Feldshuh, who was the original Yentl.
Golda, do you love me?
Do I what?
Do you love me?
Do I love you? With our daughters getting married and this trouble in the town, you're upset, you're worn out, go inside, go lie down. Maybe it's indigestion.
Golda, I'm asking you a question. Do you love me?
You're a fool.
I know. But do you love me?
Do I love you?
Well?
For 25 years, I've washed your clothes, cooked your meals, cleaned your house. given you children, milked the cow. After 25 years, why talk about love right now?
Golda, the first time I met you was on our wedding day. I was scared.
I was shy.
I was nervous.
So was I.
But my father and my mother said we'd learn to love each other. And so I'm asking Golda, do you love me?
I'm your wife.
I know. But do you love me?
Do I love him?
Well?
For 25 years I've lived with him, fought with him, starved with him. 25 years my bed is his. If that's not love, what is?
Then you love me.
I suppose I do.
And I suppose I love you too.
It doesn't change a thing, but even so, after 25 years, it's nice to know.
As I said, Jerome Robbins did the choreography. So here's an example of his work in the wedding dance, in which men dancing together. In 2017, there was a Yiddish version, which I was fortunate to see with my wife, and I hope you had a chance to see it. It was only supposed to run a couple of months, but they kept extending it. Eventually, it opened off Broadway, it moved to Broadway, and ran for about a year. It was directed by Joel Gray. He didn't appear in it, but he directed it.
I got a call from the gentleman who runs the Folksbiene, Zalman Mlotek, and he said, we're going to do Fiddler on the Roof in Yiddish. It's not been done for 50 years. It was done in Israel.
His father, Mickey Cass, was a Jewish comedian who made parodies of popular songs in Yiddish. And Joel Gray made an album in Yiddish. You see how much younger he was there. Songs my father taught me. And he actually didn't speak Yiddish, but he learned the songs phonetically. Okay, so now let's hear from the gentleman who played Tevye in this production.
we have found time and time again with our audiences, Jew or Gentile, it speaks to what it is to be told you must leave your country, and what it is to be told there may not be room for you at the table where you're going. And that is a meaningful message, a painful message that still resonates.
A fiddler Affendach. Meshuggah, nein? Aber bei uns in Anatevke ist jeder einer ein Fiddler Affendach.
Tradition, 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 Tradition.
In 1971, the film version came out of Fiddler on the Roof, and it starred Topo. The director was Norman Jewison, and his films included In the Heat of the Night, The Russians Are Coming, The Thomas Crown Affair, and many others. He explains how he got the job and why he picked Topo to be Tevye.
The first time that I was asked to direct Fiddler on the Roof, I mean, that moment, I remember quite clearly. I was standing in the office of Arthur Krim, president of United Artists. I said, there's one enormous problem of me directing the film. What would you say if I told you I was a goy? And there was absolute silence in the room. There was tremendous pressure on me to choose Zero Mostel to play the role because he had created it on Broadway. Chaim Topol was an Israeli actor who was appearing in the play in London. And the moment I saw him, I realized that he was closer to the reality of the character.
During the shooting of the film, Topol was asked about working with Norman Jewison.
Is there any truth to the rumor that you're trying to convert him?
Well, we have a joke about it, that he's going to convert into Judaism and change his name to Norman Christensen.
The song If I Were a Rich Man, which we heard before, now we're going to hear it just to show you the differences in interpretation between what Zero Mostel did with the song and Topol in the film.
If I were a rich man, all day long I'd biddy bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. If I were a bitty rich, diddle man, I'd build a big tall house with rooms by the dozen right in the middle of the town. A fine tin roof with real wooden floors below. There could be one long staircase just going up and one even longer coming down, and one more leading nowhere just for show.
If I were a rich man, all day long I biddy bum. If I were a wealthy man, you wouldn't have to work hard. Lord, who made the lion and the lamb, you decreed I should be what I am. Would it spoil some vast eternal plan? If I were a wealthy man.
Sheldon Harnick compares the stage and the film version.
It was a film. It was not the musical. That the musical had its own virtues, the film had its own virtues, and they're two separate animals. But I loved the film. I loved it even more as I became aware of how much thought Jewison had devoted to it.
Let's hear from Norman Jewison, the director, who was surprised when his film was a hit in Japan.
I remember someone calling me the next day and saying they think it's very Japanese because it was about the breaking down of traditions and the dilemma that Tevye has with that. And of course, the Japanese were going through so many of them.
John Williams, the composer of Star Wars, was asked to do the score for Fiddler.
And someone had the idea, Norman or me or someone else, that it was Fiddler on the Roof. It should be a fiddle fantasy of some kind. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have Isaac Stern, who was then the most famous working violinist? So I rang him up and he said, I would happy to do Fiddler on the Roof, but send me the music and then I'll let you know what I think. So I wrote him the cadenza and sent it, and he rang back and said, this all looks fine, I will agree to come and record.
A few years later, the great Itzhak Perlman made a recording of John Williams' score of Fiddler.
Bach, who did the music for the play, gave us this wonderful, wonderful flavor of klezmer type of feel. And of course, I don't need to tell you how great it is because it's lasted so long and it will last forever.
In the film version, when the girls do the number Matchmaker, Seidel pretends to be Yente, the matchmaker.
Why shouldn't I want the best? Because you're a girl from a poor family. So whatever Yenta brings, you'll take, right? Of course, right. Huddle! Oh, Huddle! Have I made a match for you? He's handsome, he's young. All right, he's 62, but he's a nice man, a good catch, true? True. I promise you'll be happy. And even if you're not, there's more to life than that. Don't ask me what. Hava! I found him! Will you be a lucky bride? He's handsome, he's tall. That is, from side to side. But he's a nice man, a good catch, right? Right. You heard he has a temper. He'll beat you every night. But only when he's sober. So you're all right. Did you think you'd get a prince? Well, I'll find the best I can. With no dowry, no money, no family background. Be glad you got a man. Matchmaker, matchmaker, you know that I'm still very young. Please, take your time. Up to this minute, I misunderstood that I could get stuck for good. Yenta, see that he's gentle, remember you were also a bride. It's not that I'm sentimental, it's just that I'm terrified. Matchmaker, matchmaker, plan me no plans. I'm in no rush, maybe I've learned. Playing with matches, a girl can get burned. So bring me no ring, groom me no groom, find me no fine, catch me no cat, unless he's a matchless man.
Rosalind Harris, who played the part of Seidel in the film, was actually the understudy for Bette Midler in the stage version. So Rosalind Harris recalls a problem during the filming of this number.
We all got together and discussed that that these were European women, that they wouldn't be shaving. We wanted to be real actors. So I remember we let our hair grow, and then we went to film it. And I remember we leaned back, and Norm goes, "Stop, cut. What the heck? What are you doing? We're letting the hair grow on our legs and the hair grow under our arms, you know." And he goes, "Ay, ay, ay. Take them off the set, shave their pits."
When problems occurred, Tevye had a dialogue with God.
Dear God, was that necessary? Did you have to make him lame just before the Sabbath? That wasn't nice. It's enough you pick on me. Bless me with 5 daughters, a life of poverty. That's all right. But what have you got against my horse?
Tevye is confronted by Mottel the tailor, who's trying to ask for Zeidel's hand, but Tevye had already agreed to a match with the butcher, Laser Wolf.
Reb Tevye, I hear you are arranging a match for Zeidel. Well, I have a match for Zeidel.
What kind of a match?
A perfect fit. Like a glove. This match was made exactly to measure.
Perfect fit, made to measure. Mottel, stop talking like a tailor and tell me, who is it?
Please don't shout at me, Reb Tevye.
All right, I won't shout. Who is it?
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 It's me. Myself.
Arranging a match for yourself? Tell me, what are you? Everything? The bridegroom, the matchmaker, the guest all rolled into one? I suppose you'll even perform the ceremony yourself.
Please don't shout at me, Reb Tevye. Now, as for being my own matchmaker, I know it's a little unusual.
Unusual? It's crazy!
Times are changing, Reb Tevye. The thing is, over a year ago, your daughter Zeidel and I gave each other our pledge that we would marry.
They gave each other a pledge. Unheard of. Absurd. You gave each other a pledge. Unthinkable. Where do you think you are? In Moscow? In Paris? Where do they think they are? America? What do you think you're doing? You're Stitcher. You're nothing. Who do you think you are? King Solomon? This isn't the way it's done. Not here, not now. Some things I will not, I cannot allow. Tradition. You are just a poor tailor.
That's true, Reb Tevye, but even a poor tailor is entitled to some happiness. I promise you, Reb Tevye, your daughter will not starve.
Oh, he's beginning to talk like a man. Tradition! Well, children, when shall we make the wedding?
Thank you, Papa. Oh. Reb Tevye, you won't be sorry. You won't be sorry.
I won't be sorry. I'm sorry already.
Soon after, Zeidel and Mottel are married. Tevye and Golda reflect on their daughter as they sing this beautiful song.
Is this the little girl I carried? Is this the little boy at play?
I don't remember growing older. When did they?
When did she get to be a beauty? When did he grow to be so tall?
Wasn't it yesterday when they were small?
We saw the dance earlier where the men danced together, the Hasidic dance, and let's see how that was done in the film.
We follow, let's say, 2 or 3 boys that go out this way. We follow them around with a handheld this way. Then they come back into us this way. Move, move. All right, keep it Jewish. Playback.
Unfortunately, the wedding party is interrupted by the Russian Cossacks. After this terrible event, Tevye once again turns to God for answers, as the whole world did after the Holocaust.
Dear God, I know we are the chosen people. But once in a while, can't you choose someone else?
The last number in the show, in the film, is Anatevka, in which the villagers are forced to leave because of an edict from the Tsar.
What do we leave? Nothing much, only Anatevka.
Some of these people, as they moved and were forced to move from their homes where they had lived for 300-400 years, many of them ended up in the ovens at Buchenwald, in Dachau, and Auschwitz. Not all of them got to America or Canada. Not all of them got to Israel. They moved all across Europe and lived out their lives until such time as again they were persecuted.
Sheldon Harnick comments on the very last scene in which the villagers have to flee.
It's tragic that every time it has gotten to the last scene, the Exodus, there has been something in the news which relates to that.
Fiddler is really not just about violence that is visited on a single person, but being visited on an entire culture. Really, it's about what we now call ethnic cleansing in the end. And these forces are still very much alive in the world.
As Tevye and his family leave Anatevka, he hears the sound of a violin. It's the fiddler beckoning Tevye to take him along. With a nod of his head, Tevye signals the fiddler to join them so that they and all others fleeing persecution will take with them their traditions and spiritual legacy wherever they may go.